Greetings and welcome back. Welcome back to my channel for another video. Happy Wednesday. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, perhaps good night. This is going to be a sensitive topic, so I'm giving you all a heads up. Good morning, Leonia, and good morning, Twin. I see you are up early. Oh, you're having lunch. Well, enjoy. You both enjoy. Good to see you, bud. So again, this story is about 13-year-old Nazia Harris, who apparently has been missing over 9 months now after she got off of a school bus in Detroit. And before I go any further, let me put up my disclaimers. Which is the Fair Use Act disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act. Definitely the viewer discretion disclaimer. The following broadcast contains mature themes and situations intended for adults. Viewer discretion is advised, and most definitely, especially for you parents out there, sensitive content, trigger warning. So again, 13-year-old Nazia Harris went missing after she got off a school bus in Detroit, and this has gone on for 9 months. And 4 weeks ago, it appears, and I'm going to place emphasis on appears. I wish I could, Twin, but it's too early. It's 2:21 a.m. here. 4 weeks ago, it seems as though the family has had hope, meaning that there are reports that the suspect may already be in custody on a different charge. However, there is speculation, and again, that's all I can say. There is speculation that the family had some dysfunction, and may know more than what's going on. Now, according to Fox 2, in Detroit, missing Nazia Harris, who you see in the photo, relatives say they suspected abuse at her home in the past. No one has seen or heard from 13-year-old. Okay, no problem, Leonia. For more than 6 weeks after she got off at her bus stop on Detroit's east side. And I'm going to play audio first. Again, fair use. Excuse me. It is getting chilly.
Seen or heard from Neziah Harris in more than 6 weeks since she got off at her bus stop on Detroit's east side. The longer this search goes, the more suspicious it all seems.
If she can hear me now, I would want to say to her, I love you. We love you. There's a lot of people concerned about you.
Each day, this family gets more concerned they'll never see 13-year-old Neziah Harris again.
All that we can do at this time is hope that she is alive and she did run away. However, she's made no contact with anyone for us to be able to even believe that that is true.
2 family members spoke with Fox 2 under anonymity. We'll call them Vanessa and Trish. They're estranged from Neziah's immediate family and guardian, who she lives with on Detroit's east side. The fracturing of this family started when Vanessa and Trish suspected abuse at Neziah's home. They reported the concerns to Children's Protective Services.
If I had to guess, 7 to 10 times.
Okay. Over the course of how long?
Over the course of the last 8 months to a year.
But Neziah and her 16-year-old brother remained in the home under adoptive care of their grandma, who spoke out at a press conference this week. Before she went missing on January 9th, Trish tells me she knew Neziah would be the next missing child out of Detroit. Do you think that there was foul play in her disappearance?
I think there's something going on. I mean, so many different scenarios because there's so much dysfunction from multiple members in the family.
For the first time this week, we heard Detroit's Police Chief James White say the word suspects in this case. He said suspects are being talked to and there is more to come. Multiple searches have turned up no Neziah and no evidence.
Okay, so that was the audio that prefaces where there are some differences in opinions as to what has happened to 13-year-old Neziah. So I wanted to give a little bit of backstory with that before I continue to the videos, and there are 2 of them. And again, thank you for those that have come in and to those who may catch the replay. Here's the first one. Hopefully everyone will be able to see and hear the video. Again, fair use. I'm just waiting for StreamYard to pull the video. It's already been queued. And as I said, there are 2 of them. This first one is relatively short, but the next one will be a little bit longer.
In nearly 9 months since Naziah was last seen getting off a school bus at Cornwall and 3 Mile Drive. Well, since then, police searched a pond in Clinton Township and the Rouge River on Detroit's west side for any evidence. 7 News Detroit reporter Kimberly Craig is talking to some of Naziah's loved ones who believe the suspect is the same man they have suspected all along.
The man who could soon be charged in the disappearance of 13-year-old Naziah Harris is in his 40s, and he's already been charged with the sexual assault of a 7-year-old girl.
Now to find out.
Disclaimer, trigger warning. Again, disclaimer, trigger warning.
That with his history, that he's been doing this all of these years to God knows how many other children.
It's been far too long, and we're ready for some convictions.
There's some of Naziah Harris's loved ones who for months have been holding out hope that she be found alive, but that hope for a safe return has changed and is something they also fear.
Naziah wasn't the type of young lady to just stay gone without making any contact with anyone. So that did it for me.
They said it was a recovery from day one.
The man believed to be at the center of the 13-year-old's disappearance is on the sex offender registry after being convicted of a sex crime against a child in 2005. And in March, after Naziah went missing, another teenage girl came forward to say the same man began to sexually assault her in 2015 when she was just 7 years old.
He basically came home from prison, and it seems like went right back to his same old activities.
Sadly, Naziah's father, who had been battling health issues, recently died without ever finding out what investigators believe happened to his little girl. Details the rest of her family now waiting to hear, particularly Jernell and Kawana, who say for years they've been trying to raise the alarm on the man who is now at the center of the case.
We have been adamant about not just letting the family know, but Child Protective Services know way before Naziah came up missing.
During this whole time, I found out there were 2 other CPS cases naming him in several incidences related to children, other than the one that I reported.
We just need closure. We absolutely need closure.
In Detroit, Kimberly Craig, 7 News Detroit.
Thank you, Kimberly.
Okay, that was the first video. And to me, if you pay attention to the body language and just the behavior itself, to me, something seems a little bit off. And again, this is a sensitive topic, and it is for parents who have children who actually board school buses. You have to really be careful. And just from the research that I've done thus far in the story, something doesn't seem right. She's been missing since January. Her father, as you heard on the little short video, had been out canvassing and looking and searching for, and due to health-related issues, he since passed away. So you'll never know the outcome, which makes this even worse. So the next video is a little bit longer, and it delves into SA when it comes to children. So again, viewer discretion is advised and trigger warning. Again, fair use.
In the last 30 years or so, where there's a lot more knowledge about who's in our neighborhood. There's sex offender registries and etc. So when there's a sex offender in your neighborhood, if you're a parent, you're concerned. You want to know who's in your neighborhood. You want to keep an eye on them. And if you know there's someone there who has committed these types of offenses against children, you absolutely want to keep an eye on them.
So what he said is 100% accurate. You, as parents, or acting in the capacity as parents, should absolutely know who is in the same neighborhood, who may reside in the same complex.
And you worry. You worry a lot. But what can you do? What can you do? I mean, you can tell the police, but the police can't do anything until the offender does something against the law. And that's, you know, I look at sex offenders, and I've always said this, that they don't get better, they get worse. Like their conduct doesn't.
So again, from his perspective, he believes offenders don't get better, but in fact, they get worse.
Improve with time, it gets worse through time. It becomes more and more extreme, more and more dangerous. And that's the frustration I think a lot of us feel. Because for a lot of these offenses, especially the first few, they do time and they get out. They get out, but what are you going to do? What can you do? Now, there was concern in the community in East Detroit.
Okay, that was his monologue, if you will, as it relates to these offenders. And now this is a segue into the case of missing 13-year-old Messiah Harris.
About a particular man, and everyone was kind of keeping an eye on him and was talking about him. And there were worries, because they knew his history, and they knew who he was and what he was doing. And it was problematic. Really problematic and worrisome, obviously, for any parent, any grandparent, and for children if they happen to know. Now, in that neighborhood, 13-year-old girl went missing in January. Messiah Harris is her name. Just coming home from school, stepping off a school bus, and then seemingly vanishing. We know children don't just vanish. Something happens to them.
Absolutely, 100%. So from the moment she stepped off the school bus at her stop, she has not been seen nor heard of since, according to reports.
And she was the type of kid who wouldn't just wander away. If she's going to go somewhere, she's responsible, she would tell someone. But there was no communication, so everyone suspected something was really, really wrong. And that's turned out to be very, very true. Because here we are, and she still has not been found. But there are new developments in her case that we want to talk about tonight. Kimberly Craig from Scripps News Detroit has the latest. And I think you look at this case, that the family has a realistic approach after all this time. So it's really a search for a sense of justice and answers and what happened, but they may be closer. Let's take a listen.
Again, viewer discretion and trigger warning. And I want you to pay attention to not only the delivery of the dialogue from the family member, but pay attention to the body language. Keep in mind, this occurred back in January of this year. However, in February, as the audio illustrated earlier, there has been people pointing fingers at the family. So keep mental notes of that.
The man who could soon be charged in the disappearance of 13-year-old Neziah Harris is in his 40s, and he's already been charged with the sexual assault of a 7-year-old girl.
Now to find out that with his history, that he's been doing this all of these years to God knows how many other children.
It's been far too long, and, we're ready for some convictions.
There's some of Neziah Harris's loved ones who for months have been holding out hope that she'd be found alive. But that hope for a safe return has changed into something they also fear.
Neziah wasn't the type of young lady to just stay gone without making any contact with anyone. So that did it for me.
They said it was recovery from day one.
The man believed to be at the center of the 13-year-old's disappearance is on the sex offender registry after being convicted of a sex crime against a child in 2005. And in March, after Neziah went missing, another teenage girl came forward to say the same man began to sexually assault her in 2015 when she was just 7 years old.
He basically came home from prison, and it seems like went right back to his same old activities.
Sadly, Neziah's father, who'd been battling health issues, recently died without ever finding out what investigators believe happened to his little girl. Details the rest of her family now waiting to hear, particularly Jernell and Kawana, who say for years they've been trying to raise the alarm on the man who's now at the center of the case.
We have been adamant about not just letting the family know, but Child Protective Services know way before Neziah came up missing.
During this whole time, I found out there were 2 other CPS cases naming him in several incidences related to children, other than the one that I reported.
We just need closure. We absolutely need closure.
In Detroit, Kimberly Craig, 7 News Detroit.
That's got to get you angry and frustrated. That they're watching it happen like in real time. We know that this man is a problem. He's a problem. And now, still searching for Neziah. Let's bring in our guest joining us tonight. In Detroit, Michigan, Neziah Harris's cousin, Roxy, is with us.
Okay, again, this is her cousin. Our cousin's name is Roxy. Again, pay attention to her body language and just her demeanor.
Also joining us, clinical and forensic neuropsychologist and author of the book, The New Rules of Attachment, Dr. Judy Ho is with us. Thank you both. Roxy, how's the family doing? And what's on the mind of the family now with this new development?
It's something that we were hoping that it wasn't the case. However, we're we're all dealing with it the best way that we can right now.
Was there any, and we don't have to name any names here, right? Because no one's been charged yet officially. Um,
So keep that in mind. I mean, I'm not saying that they're looking for a scapegoat, but he has not been charged as it relates to this young lady.
but the person everyone's talking about, zeroing in on, that seems to be the focus of all this. Was there any connection to the family? Any connection to Neziah?
As far as what?
That's a red flag right there.
Did she know him? Did anyone in the family know this guy? Was he like in the neighborhood? What was there any
yes,
sort of relationship or connection with the family or with Neziah?
Yes, he was around Desire frequently from what I know. With her aunt, it was her. This person of interest was her aunt that she was staying with at the time.
Keep in mind, while she's saying the audio that I played at the top of the broadcast, there were family members that said that there was dysfunction in the family and suspected abuse. So again, keep a mental note of that.
Boyfriend.
And how much of the history of this man did people know about prior to Neziah vanishing?
I believe it was pretty public. His history is pretty public, considering the fact that he's a registered sex offender. So you can just type in his name and he'll pop up.
So she's saying that you can just type in his name and he'll pop up. That's actually true. However, if you paid attention to the video, his likeness was blurred out. And I'm going to assume that was because he has not been charged. They're looking at him, and I can understand why. But according to this, he hasn't been charged. Let's continue.
I believe he also did some prison time for the same thing. So it pretty much seems like he went to prison for it, got out of prison for it, and turned around and did the same thing.
Dr. Judy Ho, I opened tonight talking about my perspective, and my perspective is from following cases and being a prosecutor and seeing the rap sheets. And for what I've seen from my end is that people like this tend to get worse, not better. There's like putting them in jail doesn't do anything. They just get out and the conduct continues and it gets more risky, more extreme, more dangerous.
That's right, Vinny. And it's so sad because you want to have hope in the human condition, right? And I think that there's a small proportion of people who can truly be recidivated, who truly say, yes, I want to heal. I want to be a better person. But for the most part, individuals with these types of rap sheets, what's protective of society is essentially keeping them away from society. And so oftentimes these individuals, they should not get early release. They may not respond to treatment programs, and they may not care enough to stop themselves, even if there's a part of them that knows what they're doing is wrong.
Yeah, sex offenders, I've seen it so many times. Roxy, let's talk about the search for Neziah. What's the latest there?
Okay, so they're going to go back to Neziah's cousin, Roxy, who's in the white t-shirt.
The status, I know the family was really involved. I know trying to get the community involved, and there was a lot of response. I know there were Facebook Lives that the family was doing from time to time during some of these searches as well. How is that going right now?
Right now, the searches have ceased due to the police asking for us to stop at this moment because they have all of the supporting evidence that they need to convict the person that is responsible. So right now, we're just waiting for the Detroit Police Department to go ahead and make their announcement so that we can give Naziah the justice that she deserves.
And has this given the family a sense of hope? I know it's a loss that I never use the C word, closure. I never use that. I say an opportunity to maybe turn a page. Do you feel like there's a little bit of light now where you'll get a sense of justice, Roxy?
A little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. However, because we're waiting on the announcement, it's kind of like being on pins and needles because we've been waiting for so long. So we want answers. However, we do understand that it takes time. But you know, as her family who's been searching for her diligently and providing the police with as much information as we can, you know, we just want to we want answers. You know, at this point. So obviously, you know, we have to be a little bit more patient, and that's what we're doing right now. And we just can't, you know, wait to get Naziah that justice that, you know, like I said earlier, that she deserves.
Dr. Judy Ho, 13 years old is such a, I mean, it's a difficult age. It's difficult to navigate through, but you look at that smile, and you know, adults taking advantage and manipulating people who are in this mindset, these sex offenders. They just have a way of saying what they need to say to get their victims where they need to get them so they can do what these people do.
That's right, Vinny, and especially those who prey on minors. This is an age, even as a 13-year-old, yes, you're developing more independence, but you're still in that mode where you trust the adults around you. You expect them to lead you. You follow directions, right? You're not quite at the age where you're questioning adults, being suspicious of them. You know, that's not really the age that Naziah is at. And I think that these predators, they take advantage of this time frame in a young child and a young teen's life where they can still exact that influence. And oftentimes these teens, they're thinking that they're in the company of a trusted person, that this person has their best interest in mind, and that, as usual, is not the case with sex predators.
I want to take a listen to a statement, and it was during an interview. Mervyn Jennings, Naziah's father, who has passed away since. I think this.
Okay, as I mentioned earlier, her father was an integral part in the search for his missing daughter, and he has since passed away.
Took a toll on him as well. A lot of tragedy in his life. But I want to take a listen to him talking about his child.
I go out every day. We pass out the flyers. I read the comments. I look at this. I look at that. It's a lot. But she was a beautiful child. Just a beautiful child.
Roxy, that is so incredibly heartbreaking, and so much tragedy in the family.
Yeah, it's I will tell you that it's almost like it gets heavier by the week. It gets heavier by the week. We're trying to follow, you know, tips and leads, and you know, you coming up empty-handed. So it's a little bit of a sense of relief to hear that the police have what they need, but we're still, you know, on edge. We're still on pins and needles so that we can give Naziah the proper homecoming, and we can.
So, again, she's speaking in past tense, and I can understand that, but she hasn't been found yet, at least at the time of this video, which was about 4 weeks ago. And another reason why I'm doing this is because I do not believe this case and many like this garner the attention and support that it truly needs.
Grieve and move forward.
Dr. Judy, I wanted to follow up on that for the family. What's your best advice for getting through these moments? And if we get to the point where there's an arrest and there are charges, the next phase of all this begins as well.
Yes, and Vinny, I think that the most important thing is that the family stay together, they continue to reach out to one another for support, that they don't isolate, because sometimes it gets so heavy that you don't want to talk about it and you don't want to connect, but you don't have to always be talking about it when you get together. It's really just for that feeling of you're not alone, we're all in this, and we're honoring this person that we love, and we're hoping for the best and doing everything that we can. And when they do hopefully get to a point of getting answers and getting a conviction, I think it's most important of all that they spend that time not so much in anger and frustration. Of course, that's going to be the emotions that are there, but the more that there's finally some peace in getting whatever answers you're going to get, and in really being able to balance all of these negatives with some positive emotions as well about the situation as much as it is possible, because it can be so grueling, and vicarious trauma is a real thing. You know, hearing horrible things happen to a family member, it really weighs heavily on the mind and the heart. And so I just wish this family and you, Roxy, and everybody that loves Nazaya the very best during this process.
And Roxy,
Thank you.
Roxy, before we go, can you, I don't know if you have a memory or something you could say about Nazaya that might make you smile a little bit as you remember her?
I remember her just being a loving, caring little girl. From the last time that, I seen her, she was, she was young. I didn't see her when she was 13, but I seen her when she was maybe, I think, like 2 or 3 years old. So, for me, it hit.
Okay, so there has been a huge gap in time since her cousin, according to what she's saying, has seen her. And again, I don't mean to come across as being a cynic or a true skeptic, but I just have questions, and you'll find when I continue to go over stories like this, I'm going to have questions, especially if something doesn't sound quite right.
Hits me a little differently because I still see her as that. And
Again, she hasn't seen her since she was 2 or 3. She's 13 now. They're speaking in past tense now, unless there's something that they do know, and that's a possibility. It hasn't been released yet, so that's something I questioned earlier.
to hear something as tragic as this, it's just an unfortunate situation, and but we're here, and we're trying our best to get through it.
Okay, so I'm going to stop that video right there. That was courtesy of Court TV. And you can see pinned, if you have any information on the missing teen. Okay, missing. Didn't say deceased as of yet. And I don't know what the proper protocol is. They have a number here for the Detroit police. And I'm just going to go over some of the comments. Let me see the first one. I am so tired of women putting children in danger over a man. Please just stop. That was 3 weeks ago. 4 weeks ago. Praying so hard for Nazia and the people who love her. Another poignant point by Rochelle Starr. We must remember that 70%, now I'm not sure of the accuracy of that statistic that Rochelle placed in the comment section, but of SA of children is committed by family members. And keep in mind of the audio that I played, and that was dated in February, just a month after she went missing, and she went missing in January. Next, charge the aunt with child endangerment. Who allows people like accused anywhere, themselves or relatives? And another one, Isaiah, my thoughts and prayers are with you and your family. Three weeks ago, they knew she lived in a house with an offender, and no one thought it was suspicious she was missing. If this is accurate, that's why the red flags are going off for me. And this person right here, Andrea, says, R.I.P. or rest in peace, baby girl. Condolences to her family and friends. Penny says, what we need is our legal system to stop putting CSAs into our neighborhoods. Keep them behind bars. Our children demand our protection. H. Storm says, this is heartbreaking. Another woman bringing a known offender around children. This could have been avoided. This girl shouldn't have been alone going to or from school. It's just not safe anymore. So again, bringing a known offender around children. There's a question here. Why blur his face when he is on the registry? Brooklyn says, 4 weeks ago, probably unpopular opinion, but they would have been better off interviewing a close friend or even her favorite teacher rather than a cousin who hasn't seen her in 10 years when the girl was 2 or 3 years old. Did I not just say that? And no, I did not look at the comments prior to. That's why I say in a lot of these cases, pay attention to body language and demeanor. And her breathing, to me, I could just see the rise and fall that was more frequent than normal. And she could have been nervous, but I did pay attention to that. Another one 4 weeks ago. So the best family member they could get to interview was someone who last saw her when she was 2 or 3. They couldn't get anyone who knows this child. Why is she living with her aunt? Why was her aunt allowed to have a convicted offender living with her? I have so many questions. KTHBO, so do I, when I first heard this story. And again, this is just my opinion. The relief others had that this offender may be responsible, and he very well may be. But keep in mind, according to these comments and what we know, who is responsible? When you really get down to it, who was responsible? 4 weeks ago, I hope they find this young lady. So again, it is not known if she's no longer with us, but Roxy appeared to be speaking in past tense, bringing up homegoing. Hey there, Roadkill, how are you? I'm just going to go over a few more comments. Prayers, seriously, this world is awful. And Wendy says, yes, they get worse with time. My dad did. I was a cheerleader. Now I suffer with severe mental illness. Why is there even the possibility of calling them repeat offenders? And yes, Michelle says her father just passed too. So sad. Again, 3 weeks ago. Katie says, I live in Canada and just found out that we don't have access to the offender registry. What the, you know what? It's hard enough to keep our babies safe from these sickos. Prayers to the Harris family. And that's something I did not know as it relates to Canada. Paint and Parent said 3 weeks ago, the people/family members that bring these criminals into the communities need to take some responsibility. And it says baby can't even get off the bus no more. Another flag. And again, I didn't want to sound cynical, but it's coming out in the comments from this user 3 weeks ago. The so-called cousin, knowing all this information about the situation and knowing this baby was staying with an offender, but didn't allow little Nazia to stay with her instead. Girl, go to you know where. This mess makes me so upset. I would think that these family members need to be looked at a little bit more closely. Samantha says, absolutely disgusting. offenders aren't predators. They literally prey on little kids. How in the F do you say that and believe yourself? And Dude Morris said 11 days ago. Wait, why aren't they showing the suspect's face when he's an adult and on a registry? This is disturbing for the media to be protecting him. Rachel says parents and citizens are going to start taking this in to their own hands very soon. Anaya says 3 weeks ago, there's 9 offenders that live in her neighborhood near the playground. I never allowed my daughter to play outside. Poor Nazia. And here's another one. Loretta says, first of all, where are the parents? Well, unfortunately, the father passed away. And why do they have a family member on the interview that hasn't seen her for 10 years? And why is a 13-year-old little girl by herself, especially these days? So many questions. Clarice says, why am I just seeing this in the mainstream media? Again, I said earlier that this is one of the reasons why I'm going to start doing a lot of these more often, because this story and others like it does not garner the support or attention I feel as though it needs. Oh, somebody by the name of Marie says the name is Jarvis Butts. He is the father of, wait a minute, the guy's name is Jarvis Butts. He is the father of Nazia's auntie Shannon's children. Okay, I'm going to have to look into that to see if there's any credence in that remark. Wow. The guy, his name is Jarvis Butts, and this person is alleging that he is the father of Nazia's auntie's Shannon's children. If that's the case, then this makes it even more horrible. Hey there, Janish, Lucy Warren's World, and Leonia. Another question, why would you allow him around your niece? Another, kind of family is this? Again, keep in mind, this is 3 weeks ago. Another 3 weeks. Comment says, I'm blaming some of this on the auntie. She knew he was an offender, and he knew because they know by right he should not be around children. Why in the heck was she living with the aunt and not the mother? You all failed this teenager. So again, I said at the top of this broadcast, just by the little bit that I listened to, something doesn't feel right about this story at all. I think there are some things that are being shielded right now. And yes, it says, oh no, what happened to Mr. Harris? This is even more heartbreaking, hearing he left this world searching for his little girl and not getting any answers. Why was this monster in the same house? Shame on the aunt. Ruby Tuesday says, oh my God, the aunt knew him. He did it. BM says 3 weeks ago, I live in Detroit and I've been in the bus before with 2 young girls. They couldn't have been 12, 14 years old. And when they say it takes a village to raise children, this is what I believe that means. A man in a car pulled up to these young girls' cruiser at the bus stop and tried to coax them to get in his car and asked them to smoke. Wow. This is really sad, so I think that's probably the end of a comment. Chrissy said 3 weeks ago, Nazia's aunt has kids by the pump that's locked up. Nazia's grandma and her aunt knows exactly what happened to this young girl. I'm going to have to say, before I even finish Chrissy's comment, I agree. If you live in Detroit, you know everything that's going on with this sick family. Rosie is the only family member that's out there daily looking for Nazia. Wow. Another good question. What in the is wrong with these adult women shacking up with these predators when they have children living in the house? Astro from space says, y'all family let her down. Actually, can't blame anyone but the family. So, those are all the comments I'm going to read at this time. And again, I plan to do more stories such as this to bring awareness of stories, as I mentioned, that do not garner the attention that they need and that they should. As you can see in the comment section, a lot of the comments were written and posted 3 or 4 weeks ago. And in my opinion, this is a very sad story, and unfortunately, it's not the only one. It's not the only one, but I'm definitely going to go back and see what I can find as it results to Jarvis. And if there is that connection, if so, and as I mentioned earlier, all of them need to be looked at. And again, keep in mind, I played an audio where the two family members that were speaking, their voices were distorted upon their request, and I can understand why. They said that there was dysfunction and suspected abuse in the family home, so I don't know if they were trying to allude to this person being a known offender. I would think that's what they meant, but I cannot definitively say that, and I'm not going to, but something definitely is wrong, and I pray for this little girl, I really do. But from all the searching that they've done since January, when she went missing, you always have to have hope. I'll just say that. Just have hope. And parents, I cannot stress this enough. Know who is around your children. And if you have an inkling, and as the psychologist said, that she believes that some people want to change and can change. But even with that, I just don't think it's an intelligent decision to have someone that is a known offender living in the home with a 13-year-old little girl for obvious reasons. Thank you to those that tuned in. I hope that this story, that I'm sure many people outside of the area hasn't heard of, because again, mainstream media doesn't really talk about many of these stories, and I think we as a collective need to. It could mean the difference of maybe even finding her one way or the other, and bringing more attention to these individuals who commit these crimes. Thank you for tuning in, and for those who may catch the replay, be sure to leave any comments and or thoughts you have on this heartbreaking story of 13-year-old Nazia Harris coming out of Detroit. Everyone, please be safe, be well, and be healthier. Until next video, bye-bye for now.